Imagine a world locked in ice. A relentless blizzard rages, sculpting a landscape of white. Here, in this brutal, frozen kingdom, a true giant walked the earth. Meet the woolly rhinoceros, a titan of the Ice Age, weighing over 2 tons, cloaked in a thick, shaggy coat. This magnificent beast was built for survival. Its immense horn, not just for defense, but a vital tool, a snowplow to clear away deep drifts and uncover the frozen grasses beneath. This wasn't just an animal. It was a force of nature, perfectly adapted to a world that would have crushed lesser creatures. For hundreds of thousands of years, its thundering footsteps echoed across the mammoth steppe, a testament to life's incredible power to endure. But where did this Ice Age icon come from? Its story begins long before the great ice sheets advanced. Let's travel back over 3 million years to the Pliocene epoch. In the grasslands of Asia lived its ancestor, a more slender rhinoceros. As the global climate began to cool, a new evolutionary pressure emerged. Survival now depended on adapting to the cold. Generation by generation, these rhinos began to change. Their bodies grew stockier, better for retaining heat. Their fur thickened, becoming the dense, woolly coat we recognize. And most dramatically, their horns evolved. The front horn grew into a massive, flattened blade, perfectly shaped for sweeping aside snow. This was evolution in action, a slow and steady masterpiece sculpted by the unforgiving hand of the Ice Age. The woolly rhinoceros was born, not in an instant, but over millennia of struggle and adaptation. Life on the mammoth steppe was a constant battle. The world was a vast, treeless plain stretching from Spain to Siberia, a cold, dry grassland ecosystem that no longer exists today. Summers were short and cool, winters long and brutal, with temperatures plummeting far below freezing. For the woolly rhinoceros, every day was a quest for food. It was a grazer, relying on the tough grasses, sedges, and small shrubs that could survive the extreme conditions. Using its massive horn, it would sweep away the snow, sometimes several feet deep, to reach the life-sustaining vegetation buried underneath. This was back-breaking work, a constant expenditure of precious energy. But it had no choice. In this frozen world, finding enough to eat was the difference between life and death. The rhino's incredible adaptations were key to its survival. That famous woolly coat was actually 2 layers. A dense, fine undercoat trapped a layer of warm air against the skin, like a thermal shirt. Over that, a layer of long, coarse-scarred hairs, sometimes over a foot long, acted as a waterproof and windproof shell, shedding snow and deflecting the biting winds. Its small ears and short, stocky tail minimized heat loss, a crucial feature in sub-zero temperatures. A thick layer of fat beneath its skin provided further insulation and served as an energy reserve for when food was scarce. Even its large, flat feet acted like snowshoes, helping it to walk across deep snow without sinking. Every single part of the woolly rhinoceros was a lesson in surviving the extreme cold. Of course, the cold and hunger weren't the only dangers. The mammoth steppe was home to a fearsome array of predators. Packs of giant cave hyenas with bone-crushing jaws would test the defenses of any lone or weakened rhino. The formidable scimitar-toothed cat, a powerful ambush predator, was also a threat, especially to younger rhinos. But perhaps the most intimidating neighbor was the cave lion, a beast larger than any lion alive today. A fully grown woolly rhinoceros was a formidable opponent. Its sheer size, thick hide, and that massive, deadly horn made it a very risky target. A well-aimed charge could be fatal, even for the largest of predators. The rhinos often lived in small family groups, offering protection in numbers. The constant threat from these superpredators shaped their behavior, making them vigilant and fiercely defensive. And then there was us, early humans. For our Stone Age ancestors, the woolly rhinoceros was both a terrifying danger and an incredible prize. A successful hunt meant a wealth of resources. The meat would feed a clan for weeks. The thick hide could be used for clothing and shelter, crucial for surviving the cold. The bones and horns could be crafted into tools, weapons, and even art. Cave paintings from France to Siberia depict these rhinos, showing the deep connection and respect our ancestors had for them. Hunting such a powerful animal was incredibly dangerous. It required teamwork, clever strategies, and immense courage. Using spears and traps, early humans would target these giants. A life-or-death struggle between two of the Ice Age's most successful species. These hunts were epic events that would be remembered and retold for generations. So what happened? How did this seemingly invincible survivor, this master of the Ice Age, disappear from the face of the earth? The end for the woolly rhinoceros came around 10,000 years ago, as the last glacial period drew to a close. The world it had mastered began to change, and this time the change was too fast. As the planet warmed, the great ice sheets retreated. The vast, dry mammoth steppe, the rhino's primary habitat and food source, began to vanish. It was replaced by warmer, wetter climates, giving rise to dense forests and boggy wetlands. The grasses and herbs the rhinos depended on were replaced by trees and shrubs they couldn't eat. Their world literally disappeared from under their feet. This rapid climate change was the primary driver of their extinction. The woolly rhinoceros was a specialist, perfectly adapted to one specific environment. When that environment changed, it was unable to adapt quickly enough. Its snow-plowing horn was useless in a forest. Its grazing habits were unsuited to the new vegetation. Fragmented populations became isolated by the expanding forests, unable to find mates and becoming more vulnerable. While human hunting may have played a role, delivering the final blow to already struggling populations, it was the dramatic shift in the global climate that sealed their fate. The titan of the Ice Age simply couldn't survive in a warmer world. But the story doesn't end there. Today, the legacy of the woolly rhinoceros is being unearthed from the melting permafrost of the Arctic. In places like Siberia, climate change is revealing the frozen remains of these Ice Age giants in stunning states of preservation. We've found not just bones, but entire mummified carcasses with skin, fur, and even internal organs intact. In 2020, a juvenile rhino named Sasha was discovered, so perfectly preserved that its fur and even its horn were still there after tens of thousands of years. These incredible discoveries are a scientific treasure trove. They allow us to study their genetics, diet, and health, giving us a direct window into the Ice Age world. We can analyze the contents of their stomachs to see exactly what they ate for their last meal. Each new find adds another piece to the puzzle, helping us understand not just how they lived, but why they vanished. The tale of the woolly rhinoceros is more than just a story about a long-lost animal. It's a powerful and timely warning. It shows how even the most dominant and well-adapted species can be brought to extinction when its environment changes too quickly. The same forces of rapid climate change that doomed the woolly rhinoceros are at play again today, but this time they are driven by human activity. The rhino's story is a stark reminder of the delicate balance of our planet's ecosystems. As we look back at this magnificent beast, we see a reflection of our own vulnerability. The fate of the woolly rhinoceros teaches us a crucial lesson. The world we depend on is not guaranteed, and the ability to adapt is the ultimate key to survival. Let's remember its story and work to protect the incredible biodiversity of our own time. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories from our planet's amazing history. Step back in time, some 40,000 years ago, to a world sculpted by ice and wind. This is the Pleistocene, the Great Ice Age. Across the vast, frozen expanse of the Eurasian steppe, a colossal creature reigns supreme. This is the world of the woolly rhinoceros. Imagine the scene. A blanket of white stretches to the horizon, the air crisp and cold enough to steal your breath. Here, in this unforgiving landscape, a new life begins. A newborn woolly rhino calf, weighing over 100 pounds at birth, takes its first wobbly steps. Its fur, a thick, shaggy coat of reddish-brown, is already dense, a vital shield against the biting cold. For now, its horn is just a small, rounded bump on its nose, a hint of the formidable weapon it will one day become. The mother, a mountain of muscle and fur, stands guard. Her presence is a fortress. She nudges the calf gently, her massive head a surprising instrument of tenderness. Her bond with her young is incredibly strong, a fierce, protective instinct honed over millennia. For the first few months, the calf will never stray more than a few feet from her side, learning the sounds, scents, and secrets of this icy kingdom under her watchful eye. Look closer at this magnificent animal. The woolly rhino's fur is a marvel of adaptation. It's a double-layered coat, a dense underwool for insulation, covered by long, coarse guard hairs that shed snow and water. Beneath this lies thick skin, several centimeters deep in places, providing another layer of protection, not just from the cold, but from the clashes and conflicts that are a part of life on the steppe. And then there are the horns. The most striking feature is the enormous anterior horn, which could grow up to a meter long, made of keratin, the same substance as our fingernails. This flattened, blade-like horn was not just for show. It was a multi-purpose tool, essential for survival. Watch as a mature rhino uses this incredible appendage. With powerful sweeps of its head, it clears away deep snow, exposing the frozen grasses and sedges buried beneath. This was their primary food source, the fuel that powered these multi-ton beasts through the brutal winters. The horn was their key to unlocking the frozen pantry of the tundra. Growth for a young rhino is rapid. Within its first year, the calf will more than triple in size, and its own horn will begin to take shape. It learns by mimicking its mother and other members of the small family group. These weren't solitary wanderers. Evidence suggests they lived in small herds, a social structure that offered greater protection and efficiency in finding food. The young ones would spar playfully, pushing and shoving, practicing the skills they would need as adults. The changing seasons dictated the rhythm of their lives. As summer brought a brief, vibrant bloom of life to the steppe, the rhinos would feast, building up fat reserves. But as the relentless cold returned, they embarked on epic seasonal migrations. Great herds, led by experienced matriarchs, would traverse hundreds of miles across the frozen tundra, following ancient routes to sheltered valleys or areas where food was more plentiful. Their journey was a testament to their endurance. These animals were built for the long haul, their stocky legs and broad feet providing stability on the treacherous, icy ground. The landscape they moved through was both beautiful and dangerous. Towering glaciers loomed in the distance, and the northern lights may have danced in the skies above them on long, dark winter nights. But they were not alone. The Ice Age was a world of megafauna, and predators were ever present. From the shadows of rocky outcrops, a pack of cave hyenas might watch, their eyes gleaming. A lone cave lion, the largest feline of the era, might stalk the herd, testing for any sign of weakness. However, a healthy adult woolly rhino was an almost untouchable target. A two-tongued beast with a giant spear on its face and a hide-like armor was not an easy meal. Predators knew this. They would watch from a distance, waiting, hoping for a calf to stray, or for an old or sick individual to fall behind. This is when the herd's defensive strategy became critical. The adults would form a protective circle around the young and vulnerable, their massive horns facing outward an impenetrable wall of keratin and fury. Any predator foolish enough to charge would be met with a devastating counterattack. Beyond their brute strength, woolly rhinos possessed a surprising intelligence. Like their modern relatives, they likely had excellent hearing and a keen sense of smell, senses that were vital in a landscape with vast, open spaces. They would have had complex social interactions, communicating through a series of snorts, calls, and body language. Their memory was also a key survival tool, allowing them to remember migration routes, watering holes, and the locations of mineral licks essential for their health. This intelligence is what allowed them to thrive for over 1 million years, adapting to the dramatic climate shifts of the Pleistocene. They were masters of their environment, perfectly in tune with the ebb and flow of the ice. They witnessed the rise and fall of glaciers, the coming and going of other giant beasts. They were a cornerstone of the mammoth steppe ecosystem. As we visualize this lost world, we see not just a monster of myth, but a living, breathing creature, a dedicated mother, a powerful survivor, and an intelligent being. The woolly rhinoceros was a true icon of the Ice Age, a symbol of strength and resilience in the face of one of the harshest environments Earth has ever known. Though they vanished from the world around 10,000 years ago, their story remains frozen in time, a powerful reminder of the incredible life that once roamed our planet. Thank you for joining us on this journey back to the Ice Age. If you were captivated by the world of the woolly rhino, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more incredible stories from our planet's distant past. See you on the next one. In an age of giants, when colossal ice sheets sculpted the very face of our planet, one creature stood as a testament to raw, untamed power. This was not just an animal. It was a force of nature, a titan of the frozen plains. This was the era of the woolly rhinoceros. Imagine a world draped in an endless blanket of white, a landscape vast, unforgiving, and ruled by the relentless grip of winter. Here, amidst the sweeping tundras and glacial valleys, enormous herds moved like living rivers across the land. They were the true rulers of this unforgiving world, their sheer numbers a spectacle of life in the harshest of climates. They shared this kingdom with other giants, the towering woolly mammoths, the formidable steppe bison, but the rhinoceros held its own, a stocky, shaggy bastion of survival. Look closer. See the dense, reddish-brown fur, a double-layered coat designed by millennia of evolution to defy the piercing cold. The outer layer, long and coarse, shed snow and deflected the wind, while a soft, woolly undercoat trapped precious body heat. A large hump of muscle and fat on its shoulders acted as a vital energy reserve, a fuel tank for the long, lean months of winter when sustenance was scarce. And then there were the horns, not one, but two, rising from its snout-like monuments to its dominance. The front horn, a magnificent keratinous blade, could grow up to a meter long, flattened from side to side. It was its signature, its primary tool for survival. With this horn, it was not merely armed, it was equipped for mastery. Watch as it carves its existence from the frozen earth. With powerful swings of its head, it sweeps aside heavy blankets of snow, clearing patches of ground to reach the buried grasses and sedges beneath. This wasn't delicate grazing. It was a relentless excavation, a battle for every mouthful, and winter's freeze locked rivers and lakes in a crystalline grip. The rhinoceros would use that same formidable horn to break through thick ice, gaining access to the water essential for life. Its daily life was a constant negotiation with the environment and its inhabitants. Food was a perpetual concern. While mammoths used their tusks to strip bark from trees, the rhinoceros was a dedicated grazer, its wide, square lips perfectly adapted for cropping vast quantities of low-lying vegetation. In the brief, explosive summers, these plains would burst with life, and the herds would feast, building up the fat reserves necessary to endure the coming darkness. Competition was fierce. A territory wasn't just a space, it was a lifeline. A clash between two males was a truly awesome sight. They would face off, snorting clouds of steam into the frigid air, their massive heads lowered. The initial conflict was often a display of intimidation, a show of size, a series of guttural roars echoing across the tundra. But when posturing failed, the raw power was unleashed. They would charge, a thundering convergence of muscle and fury. The impact was cataclysmic. Horn met horn in a percussive crash, the sound cracking through the profound silence of the Ice Age. These were not battles to the death, but brutal contests of strength and endurance. The goal was to push, to shove, to unbalance the rival, asserting dominance and winning the right to mate, or securing access to the best grazing grounds. The victor, bruised but triumphant, would stand his ground, while the loser retreated, living to challenge another day. These animals were not isolated. They were part of a complex and dynamic ecosystem. They moved in loose herds, the presence of many offering protection from the apex predators of their time. The fearsome cave lion and packs of giant hyenas were a constant threat, always watching from the periphery, testing the herd for any sign of weakness, the old, the sick, or the very young. A mother rhinoceros was a fortress of maternal fury, her horn a deadly deterrent to any predator foolish enough to threaten her calf. She would stand her ground, a whirlwind of protective rage, ensuring the survival of the next generation. Life was dictated by the rhythm of the seasons, but these were seasons of extremes. The sky itself was a canvas for dramatic events. Immense storms would roll in, blizzards that could rage for days, visibility dropping to near zero, forcing the herds to huddle together for warmth, their shaggy coats caked in ice and snow. And in the long polar nights, the heavens would put on their own display. The aurora borealis, the northern lights, would dance across the sky in ethereal curtains of green, purple, and blue, casting a ghostly glow upon the slumbering giants below. It was a world of stark contrasts for brutal hardship and breathtaking, otherworldly beauty. The reign of the woolly rhinoceros spanned hundreds of thousands of years. They were one of the most successful large mammals of the Pleistocene epoch, their range stretching from the British Isles across the vast expanse of Eurasia to the easternmost reaches of Siberia. Their fossils, and even remarkably preserved carcasses found frozen in the permafrost, tell us a story of incredible resilience and adaptation. But like the ice sheets that defined their world, their time was destined to come to an end. As the planet began to warm, the great glaciers retreated. The vast, cold, dry grasslands, the mammoth steppe began to change. Forests expanded, wetlands formed, and the vegetation that had sustained these massive grazers for so long began to disappear. The world that had forged them was vanishing. The changing climate, coupled with the arrival of a new, highly intelligent, predatorily humans, created a perfect storm of pressures. For a creature so exquisitely adapted to one specific environment, this rapid transformation was insurmountable. Their numbers dwindled. The one's mighty herds thinned, their thunderous presence on the plains fading into a whisper, until finally they vanished completely, becoming legends frozen in time. Today, we look back in awe. The woolly rhinoceros was more than just an ancient animal. It was an icon of the Ice Age, a symbol of survival against impossible odds. It represents a chapter of Earth's history when life thrived in its most powerful and spectacular forms, a reminder of the epic, ever-changing story of our planet. They may be gone, but their legacy is etched into the very rock and ice of the world they once ruled. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. If you were captivated by the world of these incredible Ice Age giants, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the planet's amazing past. See you next time. Step back in time to a world sculpted by ice and wind. This is the Pleistocene, an epoch of giants, where survival was a daily, brutal struggle. The air is thin, crisp, and carries the scent of pine and frozen earth. But listen closely. Beneath the howl of the wind, there's another sound, the low growl of a world ruled by predators. Dominating this frozen landscape is the saber-toothed cat, Smilodon. It's not a tiger, but a beast in a class of its own. Imagine a predator the size of a modern lion, but broader, more muscular, built like a battering ram. Its most terrifying feature, those iconic 9-inch canine teeth, were not for show. They were precision instruments of death, designed to sever the windpipe and arteries of its prey in a single, devastating bite. Smilodon wasn't a marathon runner. It was an ambush specialist. It would use its immense upper body strength to wrestle massive prey like bison and young mammoths to the ground before delivering that fatal embrace. Every hunt was a high-stakes gamble, a testament to its power and its place at the top of the food chain. But Smilodon wasn't the only apex hunter stalking these icy plains. Moving in formidable packs, the dire wolf Canis dirus commanded respect and fear. Larger and heavier than any wolf alive today, with a bite force that could crush bone with terrifying ease. These were the ultimate pack hunters, A single dire wolf was a threat. A pack was a relentless, strategic force of nature. They could surround and exhaust prey far larger than themselves. Their howls echoing across the tundra, a chilling announcement of an impending siege. Their social structure and coordinated attacks made them one of the most successful and widespread predators of the Ice Age. And from the shadows of caves and rocky outcrops, another giant watched. The cave lion Panthera spelaea. This was no ordinary lion, up to 25% larger than its modern African relatives. Without a prominent mane, it was a sleek, powerful killing machine, faster and more agile than the saber-toothed cat. The cave lion was a versatile hunter, capable of taking down everything from wild horses to reindeer. Ancient cave paintings, our earliest historical records, depict these magnificent beasts with a mixture of awe and terror. They were phantoms of the Ice Age, silent stalkers who ruled the twilight hours, their golden eyes gleaming in the dusk. Life for the great herbivores was a constant state of vigilance. Herds of woolly rhinos, their thick, shaggy coats providing insulation against the biting cold, moved like armored tanks across the steppe. Their massive horns were not just for display, they were lethal defensive weapons. We rarely see evidence of successful attacks on healthy adult rhinos, but their fossilized bones tell a story. Healed fractures, deep gouges, and puncture wounds are scars of battles won. Evidence of near misses with Smilodon, or desperate stands against a pack of dire wolves. A cornered rhino, snorting and stamping, charging with the force of a locomotive, was a sight even the most fearsome predators would think twice about challenging. They would form defensive circles, young sheltered in the middle, a fortress of horn and fury. Into this world of titanic struggles, a new player entered the game. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most heavily armed U.S. early humans, Homo sapiens. From the relative safety of high ridges and cliffs, small family groups watched. They observed the great drama unfolding below. They weren't just surviving, they were learning. They saw the patterns of migration, the hunting grounds of the great cats, the defensive strategies of the herds. They saw the dire wolves coordinate, the Smilodon ambush, the cave lion's patient stalk. Fear was a constant companion, a primal instinct screaming at them to stay hidden. But it was mixed with something else: curiosity, intelligence, the spark of ingenuity. As dusk fell, a new light flickered across the landscape, a light that did not belong to the moon or stars. Fire gathered around their hearths. Our ancestors found more than just warmth. They found a weapon. A simple, flaming torch could keep the darkest terrors of the night at bay. The shadows that held the cave lion and the dire wolf were now pushed back, held at a distance by this dancing, crackling shield. Fire transformed the night from a time of pure terror into a time of community, of planning, of storytelling. It was the first great technological leap, the single most important tool in humanity's arsenal against a world that seemed determined to devour it. With fire came confidence, and with confidence came ambition. The sticks and stones they had used for scavenging were slowly, painstakingly shaped into something more. Spear points, napped from flint with incredible skill, were attached to long, straight shafts. These weren't the weapons of an apex predator. They were the tools of a thinking one. They couldn't outrun a horse or outmuscle a bison, but they could plan. They could cooperate. They could use the landscape to their advantage, driving herds towards cliffs or into narrow, inescapable ravines. The human mind became the deadliest weapon on the planet. A tension began to build across the plains, a new dynamic in the ancient struggle for survival. The balance of power was shifting. The megafauna, who had ruled for millennia, suddenly had a new competitor. A competitor that was unpredictable, intelligent, and armed with fire and stone. The humans watched the mammoths, not just with fear, but with calculation. They saw not just a walking mountain of flesh, but a source of food that could sustain their clan for weeks. Hides for shelter and clothing, and massive bones and tusks that could be used to build huts and craft even better tools. The hunt was on. This wasn't a battle of equals. It was a contest of brain versus brawn, of strategy versus instinct. A small band of humans, armed with spears and torches, would track a lone mammoth, separating it from the herd. They would use noise and fire to create confusion and panic, driving the terrified animal into a pre-selected trap. The final confrontation would be a chaotic, terrifying dance of courage and desperation. A flurry of spears against a wall of fur and fury. Many hunts failed. Many hunters were lost, trampled, or gored in the desperate struggle. But when they succeeded, it was a victory that echoed through their small community. A feast that ensured their survival and strengthened their resolve. As the glaciers began their final retreat and the world warmed, this new pressure from humanity, combined with the dramatic climate shifts, began to take its toll. The great beasts, the titans of the Ice Age, began to disappear. The dire wolves, the cave lions, and the magnificent saber-toothed cats vanished, their reign brought to an end. Their world was changing too fast, and their new two-legged rivals were adapting faster. The story of the Ice Age is not just a tale of extinction. It is the story of our own ascendance. It is the story of how a small, vulnerable primate, through intelligence, cooperation, and sheer force of will, rose to face the giants and inherit the earth. The echoes of that epic struggle are coded into our very DNA, a reminder of the world we came from and the giants who once walked here. Thank you for joining us on this journey back to the Ice Age. If you were captivated by this story of survival, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into our planet's incredible past. We'll see you in the next one. In the vast, frozen landscapes of the Pleistocene, a giant roamed, the woolly rhinoceros, a titan of the Ice Age, cloaked in a thick, shaggy coat, its formidable horns carving a path through the snow-swept tundra. For millennia, these magnificent beasts were a symbol of untamed nature, a force of the wild that seemed eternal. But they were not alone. Another species was on the rise, small and seemingly fragile, but armed with something far more powerful than horn or hide. A collaborative mind. Our story begins in the flickering firelight of a prehistoric camp. Look closely at the faces gathered here, weathered by wind and ice. They are our ancestors, their hands calloused and skilled, craft tools from flint and bone. A spearhead is carefully knapped, its edges sharper than any claw. These aren't just tools for gathering or defense. They are instruments of the hunt, meticulously designed for a specific and colossal prey. The survival of the clan depends on their success. On the rock walls of deep caves, hidden from the ravages of time, they left their stories. Here, immortalized in charcoal and ochre, is the world they knew. And there, dominating the ancient gallery, is the woolly rhino, depicted with astonishing detail and respect. These were not just pictures of animals, they were manuals, spiritual maps, and perhaps a prayer to the spirits of the hunt. The artists captured the rhino's massive form, its powerful shoulders, its iconic horns. They knew their adversary intimately. The hunt was an epic undertaking, a testament to human ingenuity and courage. It wasn't about brute force. It was a chess match played across the frozen plains. Watch as a hunting party moves with stealth, using the terrain to their advantage. They are a single unit, communicating with subtle gestures and a shared understanding that transcends words. Their strategy is complex, honed over generations. One favored tactic was the trap, a deep pit, cunningly disguised with branches and snow, dug into a known rhino trail. The hunters would then work together to drive the animal towards it. The air would fill with shouts, the banging of sticks, a coordinated chaos designed to panic the giant and steer it towards its doom. It was a high-stakes gamble. A wrong move could mean a fatal charge from the enraged beast. Another strategy was persistence, hunting, a grueling marathon of endurance. A lone rhino would be separated from its herd. Then the chase began. Not a sprint, but a relentless pursuit that could last for days. Humans, with their ability to sweat and cool their bodies, had a unique advantage over the heavily insulated rhino. Hour after hour, they would track it, giving it no time to rest, to eat, or to drink. Eventually, the colossal animal, a creature of immense power, would collapse from sheer exhaustion. Let's not romanticize this. The confrontation was brutal and terrifying. Imagine standing before this mountain of muscle and fury. The ground trembles as it charges, its massive head lowered, horns aimed to kill. The hunters stand their ground, spears held ready. It is a moment of pure primal conflict, a clash of wills where survival is the only prize. The rhino fights for its life with every ounce of its being, a cornered giant raging against its fate. The humans fight for their families, for the promise of meat that will see them through the brutal winter, for the hides that will become their shelter. In this desperate struggle, there are no villains, only survivors. For countless generations, a precarious balance was maintained. Humans hunted and rhinos endured. The hunt was difficult, and success was never guaranteed. The rhino populations, while impacted, remained resilient. The vastness of the Ice Age world provided refuge, and the sheer danger of the hunt acted as a natural check on human predation. The balance held, but it was fragile. Something was about to change. The shift began subtly, almost imperceptibly. The climate, which had defined the Ice Age for so long, started to warm. Glaciers retreated, and the vast, grassy steppes, the rhino's prime habitat, began to shrink, replaced by encroaching forests. The world that had shaped the woolly rhino was slowly vanishing. Its food sources became scarcer, its territories fragmented. The giant was being squeezed from all sides, and human hunting pressure was intensifying. As our ancestors' populations grew, so did their need for resources. Hunting techniques became more refined, weapons more lethal. The autlot, or spear thrower, allowed them to strike from a safer distance with greater force. The coordination between hunting groups became more sophisticated. What was once a high-risk endeavor was becoming a more reliable, efficient process. The decline, once it began, accelerated. Fewer rhinos meant each hunt was more critical, putting even more pressure on the remaining animals. Calves, the future of the species, were especially vulnerable. The ancient dance between hunter and hunted was breaking down. The respect born of fear and awe was being replaced by a desperate efficiency. The balance had tipped. we see the final act of this tragedy unfold not in a dramatic battle, but in a slow, silent disappearance. A lone rhino wanders a landscape that is no longer its own. The herds are gone. The familiar calls of its kind are replaced by an empty wind. It is the last of its line, a living ghost in a world that has moved on. The fires in the human camps burn brighter than ever, fueled by their success, but a shadow has fallen across the land. The giant is gone. In its extinction, the woolly rhinoceros left us a profound and enduring lesson. It taught us that even the mightiest can fall. It showed us the incredible power of human cooperation and ingenuity, a power that could topple giants. But it also stands as a timeless warning, a warning about the fragility of balance and the irreversible consequences when that balance is broken. As we look back at the painted walls of those ancient caves, we see not just a record of a hunt, but a poignant memorial to a lost world and a responsibility that echoes through to our own time. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the past meaningful, please consider subscribing for more stories from our planet's deep history. The world is changing. A great thaw has begun, a slow, inevitable shift that is remaking the very face of our home. For millennia, ice has been the master, a vast, frozen kingdom stretching as far as the eye can see. But now, its grip is loosening. We see it in the great rivers of ice, the glaciers that once carved mountains. The endless white is yielding, revealing the dark, forgotten earth beneath. The snow, once a crisp, deep blanket, is turning to slush and mud. The solid ground we once knew is becoming treacherous, a mire that traps the unwary. The air itself feels different. It has lost its biting edge, replaced by a strange, heavy warmth that settles over the landscape. The sounds are changing too. The sharp crack of splintering ice is replaced by the constant, mournful rush of meltwater. The silence of the frozen world is giving way to the gurgle and flow of a world awakening. Our grasslands, the vast, wind-swept steppes that have sustained us, are shrinking. What was once a sea of hardy grasses and herbs is now dotted with encroaching forests and marshlands. The familiar plants are disappearing, replaced by new, unfamiliar greenery that thrives in this wetter, warmer world. This is not the world our ancestors knew. This is a time of transition, a great unraveling of the old order. The Ice Age, the age of giants and endless winter, is dying. For us, the woolly rhinoceros, this is a time of great struggle. Our bodies, built for the cold, are our prisons in this new warmth. Our thick, shaggy coats, which once protected us from the harshest blizzards, are now a suffocating burden. We pant in the midday sun, seeking shade that is increasingly hard to find. The heat saps our strength, making every movement a monumental effort. We were born of ice and snow, and this new world of sun and mud feels alien, hostile. Our food, the dry, tough vegetation of the steppe, is becoming scarce. The new plants that flourish in the damp soil are foreign to our palates, and many offer little nourishment. We must wander further and further, our great horns parting unfamiliar foliage, searching for the familiar tastes that sustain us. The once abundant grazing lands are now fragmented, islands of sustenance in a sea of change. Hunger is a constant companion, a dull ache that gnaws at us, weakening our massive frames. We see it in our young. They are smaller, weaker. The rich milk our females once produced is thinning, a reflection of their own meager diet. More calves stumble and fall, unable to keep up with the herd's relentless search for food. The ancient rhythms of life are breaking down. Mating seasons are disrupted, our social bonds frayed by stress and scarcity. The world is becoming a harsher place for the next generation. The herds, once mighty rivers of fur and horn flowing across the plains, are now just scattered streams. We travel in smaller, more desperate groups, our numbers dwindling with each passing year. The sight of another rhinoceros is becoming a rarity. Sometimes we see one of us alone, a solitary figure etched against the horizon, a lonely testament to our fading glory. We call out, our deep, rumbling voices echoing across the landscape, but often the only answer is the whisper of the wind through the strange new trees. There is a sense of isolation that has settled over us, a feeling of being the last of our kind. The vastness of the steppe, which once felt like a promise of freedom, now feels like an empty, echoing void. We are giants in a world that no longer has a place for us, relics of a bygone era, wandering through the ruins of our frozen kingdom. And then there are the others, the humans. They are small and frail compared to us, yet they are spreading like a wildfire. We see their fires dotting the night, a constellation of flickering lights that grows brighter with each passing season. Their territories expand, pushing into the lands that were once ours alone. They are adaptable, resourceful. They thrive in this changing world. Their intelligence, a tool far more potent than our horns or our bulk. They hunt us. Their slender spears, once a minor nuisance, have become deadlier. They hunt in organized groups, their cunning and coordination a threat we cannot counter. They drive us into traps, into muddy bogs, where our heavy bodies become our own undoing. They want our meat, our hides, our very horns. We have become a resource for them, a prize to be won. The fear we once inspired has turned to something else, a challenge. We watch them from a distance, these clever, relentless beings. We see them building shelters, raising their young, their laughter and shouts carrying on the wind, a sound that has become as ominous as the rumble of a distant rockslide. They are the inheritors of this new world, and in their rise, we see the shadow of our own demise. They are not the cause of the great thaw, but they are its beneficiaries, and their expansion leaves less and less room for us. Let your mind travel back through the ages. Picture the world as it was, a canvas of brilliant white and deep glacial blue. See the vast ice sheets, miles thick, covering continents. Watch as they breathe, expanding and contracting with the planet's pulse over thousands of years. Mighty mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and our own formidable ancestors roamed this frozen paradise, perfectly adapted to its magnificent, brutal beauty. This was a world of giants, a world of ice. Now, watch as the centuries fly by in moments. See the great thaw begin, a subtle shift at first, then a cascade of change. The ice sheets begin their long retreat, calving massive bergs into newly formed seas. Rivers rage across the land, carving fresh valleys. Forests march northward, chasing the retreating ice. The world's coastlines are redrawn as sea levels rise. See our herds thin, our range contract. Watch as the small, upright figures of humans spread across this new, greener world, their fires multiplying, their presence growing ever stronger. This is the end of an epoch. It is a story not of a sudden catastrophe, but of a slow, relentless transformation. It is a story written in melting ice, in changing landscapes, and in the bones of creatures who could not adapt. The world we knew, the world of the great cold, is becoming a memory, a ghost story whispered on the warm winds of a new age. We, the last of the woolly rhinos, are the final chapter of that story, a melancholic echo of a lost world. The air is warm, the ground is soft, and the age of ice is over. In the vast, unending silence of the Siberian North, a world of ice and wind whispers its final secrets. Here, where the mammoth steppe once stretched like a great grassy ocean, the last echoes of a bygone age are fading. This is the story of an ending, a story of the last of the woolly rhinoceroses. Imagine a creature forged in the crucible of the Ice Age, a beast weighing over 2 tons, draped in a thick, shaggy coat of reddish-brown fur. Its most striking feature, a colossal horn of flattened keratin, not for fighting, but for sweeping away snow, a living snowplow in search of the frozen grasses beneath. For hundreds of thousands of years, this was their kingdom. From the plains of Europe to the far reaches of Asia, they were titans of the Pleistocene, contemporaries of the Neanderthals and our own early ancestors. But kingdoms fall. The world that had nurtured them for so long was beginning to betray them. The Great Thaw had begun. 10,000 years ago, the planet was warming. The colossal ice sheets that had defined their world were in retreat. This wasn't a gentle spring. It was a chaotic and fundamental reshaping of the entire globe. The vast, dry mammoth steppe, their primary source of food, began to shrink. It was replaced by encroaching forests, damp taiga, and boggy wetlands environments, completely unsuited to these grazing giants. The storm that just passed has left the air sharp and clean, but it offers no comfort. Every gust of wind carries the scent of change, the scent of damp earth and pine, smells that spell starvation. His massive head hangs low, the immense weight of it a burden. His horn, once a magnificent tool of survival, is worn and scarred, a testament to countless winters and a lifetime of struggle. There is a deep weariness in his eyes, a profound exhaustion that seems to seep into the very landscape around him. He is not entirely alone. A few miles away, a female and her young calf huddle for warmth. Her gaze is constantly scanning the horizon, but it's not just for the wolves or cave lions that have always been their enemies. A new predator has become relentlessly efficient. Humans, our ancestors, who once shared this landscape in a delicate balance of respect and fear, had grown in number and ingenuity. Armed with finely crafted spear points and the power of coordinated thought, they were now the apex predators. For them, a rhino was a bounty unlike any other mountain of meat. Thick hides for shelter and clothing, and a horn that held perhaps some spiritual or symbolic power. In the past, when a hunting party approached, a rhino could rely on its immense size and surprising speed to defend itself or flee. But now, where could they run? The forests that were once a barrier were now a trap. The shrinking grasslands funneled the last of their kind into smaller and smaller pockets, making them easier for human hunters to track and ambush. They were caught in a pincer movement of climatic change and human predation. Let's travel back in time for a moment to see them not as fading relics, but as the magnificent beasts they were. Picture a herd of 20 thundering across the frozen plains, their breath pluming in the frigid air. The ground shakes beneath their powerful strides. They are a force of nature, perfectly adapted, a living, breathing part of this Ice Age tapestry. They communicate in low rumbles and snorts, a language of kinship and survival, understood across the vastness of the steppe. They were successful, they were resilient, and they were everywhere. The tragedy is not that they vanished, for all species eventually do. The tragedy is in the quiet solitude of their final days, the loneliness of being the last. Think of that bull we saw earlier. Does he remember a time when the plains were full of his kind? Can he feel the absence in the wind? The silence where there should be the sounds of a herd? The scientific term for this is extinction. But on the ground, for the last individuals, it is a deeply personal and isolating experience. It is the end of a bloodline that stretched back millions of years. It's the final, silent closing of a book that no one will ever read again. The calf we saw, clinging to its mother, would likely be the very last of its kind. It was born into a world that had no place for it, its future already written in the melting ice and the encroaching trees. The archaeological record tells this story in fragments of bone and stone. We find their skeletons in ancient riverbeds, sometimes alongside the tools of the humans who hunted them. These remains are not just fossils, they are monuments to a lost world. They are a poignant reminder of the fragility of life, even for the most powerful of creatures. When we look at the preserved remains of Sasha, a baby rhino discovered in the Siberian permafrost, we are looking into the face of this extinction event. We see the soft, strawberry blonde fur, the tiny horn just beginning to grow. We are connecting across 10,000 years with one of the very last. Today, their closest living relative, the Sumatran rhino, is itself on the brink of extinction, facing a similar combination of habitat loss and human pressure. The story of the woolly rhinoceros is not just a tale from the deep past, it is a warning. It demonstrates how quickly and completely a dominant species can disappear when its environment changes and a new, intelligent predator rises. As we watch our lone bull take his final heavy steps across the barren tundra, we are not just mourning a single animal, we are mourning the loss of a world. We are reflecting on the immense power of nature and our own role within it. His journey ends here, in the cold, unforgiving twilight of the Pleistocene. The snow begins to fall again, soft, silent flakes that will soon cover his tracks, erasing the last physical evidence of his existence. The wind howls, but it no longer carries the sound of the woolly rhinoceros. It carries only silence, a deep, profound silence that will last for millennia. This is how a world ends, not with a roar, but with a whisper, lost in the vast, indifferent snow. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this story moving, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more explorations into our planet's incredible past. Imagine a world of ice, vast and unforgiving. A landscape sculpted by wind and frost. In this brutal kingdom, a colossal figure makes its final stand. A woolly rhinoceros, its thick coat caked with snow, shudders against the biting gale. Each breath is a struggle, a plume of vapor stolen by the wind. The giant, a survivor of millennia, finally it collapses into the deep snow, its great horn pointing one last time towards a sky it will never see again. The snow falls, a soft white blanket covering a world that has just become a little emptier. A long silence follows, broken only by the howl of the wind across the now empty tundra. The earth kept its secret for over 10,000 years, locked away in the permafrost of Siberia. Fast forward to our time. A team of scientists, bundled against the cold, carefully brushes away layers of frozen earth. What emerges is not just bone, but flesh, hair, and horn, a time capsule from the Ice Age. The discovery of a near-perfectly preserved woolly rhino calf, nicknamed Sasha, sent shockwaves through the scientific community. It's a ghost from the past, whispering tales of a world we can only dream of. Back in the lab, the real magic begins. Under the bright lights, researchers extract microscopic fragments of DNA. This is the genetic blueprint of an extinct giant. Each sequence of a T, C, and G is a letter in the story of its life. How did it live? What did it eat? Why did it vanish? The DNA holds the clues. By comparing its genome to that of its closest living relative, the Sumatran rhino, we start to piece together the puzzle of its existence. We learn about its adaptations to the cold, its powerful immune system, and the genetic pressures it faced as its world warmed and its habitat shrank. From these digital codes and fossilized bones, artists and paleontologists begin the painstaking process of reconstruction. In museums around the world, these magnificent beasts are brought back to life, at least in form. Skeletons are assembled, muscles are sculpted from clay, and layers of coarse, reddish-brown hair are meticulously applied. Standing before one of these life-sized models, you can't help but feel a sense of awe. You can almost hear its heavy footfalls, feel the ground tremble. It's a tangible link to a lost epoch, a creature of myth made real. We see its massive size, the two formidable horns, and the powerful shoulder hump that supported its huge head. The discovery of such well-preserved DNA inevitably sparks a tantalizing question. Could we bring it back? The concept of de-extinction is no longer just science fiction. With technologies like CRISPR gene editing, the idea of resurrecting an extinct species has moved into the realm of possibility. Scientists could, in theory, edit the DNA of a Sumatran rhino egg to match the woolly rhino's genetic code. This modified embryo could then be implanted into a surrogate mother. The thought is staggering, to see a woolly rhino walk the earth again. But this raises profound ethical questions. Should we play God? Even if we could bring one back, where would it live? Its world, the vast mammoth steppe, is gone. It vanished with the end of the last ice age, releasing a resurrected rhino into today's Siberian tundra would be like placing a polar bear in the Sahara. It simply wouldn't survive. Is the spectacle of de-extinction worth endangering a living species? Perhaps the focus shouldn't be on bringing back what's gone, but on understanding what we lost. The woolly rhino wasn't just a single animal. It was a keystone species. Its grazing habits shaped the entire ecosystem of the mammoth steppe, maintaining the grasslands and influencing the distribution of countless other plants and animals. Its disappearance was a thread pulled from an intricate tapestry, causing ripples we are only just beginning to understand. Its extinction wasn't a singular event caused by a meteor. It was a slow, drawn-out process, driven by a changing climate and the growing pressure from a new, highly intelligent predator, us. Early humans hunted the woolly rhino. We have the evidence in cave paintings and in the spear points found among their bones. We lived alongside them, a part of their world. But as our populations grew and our hunting techniques became more sophisticated, the balance shifted. Combined with the warming climate that was already shrinking their habitat, the pressure became too much. The last rhinos were pushed into smaller and smaller pockets of refuge until finally there were none. Their story is a powerful, cautionary tale. It's a mirror reflecting our own impact on the planet. Today, we stand at a similar crossroads. The rhinos, living relatives, the Javan, Sumatran, black, and white rhinos are all facing the threat of extinction, not from a changing climate, but directly from our actions. Poaching for their horns has decimated their populations. Habitat loss continues to squeeze them into ever smaller territories. We are repeating the mistakes of the past, but this time we know better. We have the knowledge, the technology, and the capacity to change course. The silent, frozen tundra where the last woolly rhinoceros fell is a monument. It's a memorial not just to a single species, but to a world that has been irrevocably altered. The ghost of the woolly rhino doesn't ask us to bring it back. It asks us to look at the world around us. It asks us to protect what we still have. The Sumatran rhino teetering on the brink, the vast herds of elephants, the majestic tigers, the polar bears on their melting ice. They are all echoes of the woolly rhino's story. Let the final image of that great beast collapsing in the snow be burned into our collective memory. It's a symbol of profound and permanent loss. We can study its DNA, reconstruct its image, and marvel at its fossilized remains, but we can never get it back. We cannot undo extinction. What humanity lost that day in the howling winds of the Ice Age was lost forever. Our task now is to ensure we do not have to tell this same sad story for the magnificent creatures that still share our world. The future is in our hands. Let's not let them become ghosts of our own making. Thank you for watching.